He didn't notice the watch until the second round of coffee. Brunch had been going the way it always did, careful. My mother narrating everyone's lives in cheerful summaries. My stepfather correcting small details to remind us who controlled the facts. I'd learned to speak in neutral sentences around him. Nothing sharp. Nothing that could be reshaped later. I wore the watch because I wear it every day. It tracks my runs, my meetings, my sleep. It wasn't symbolic. It wasn't strategic. But when he saw it, something shifted in his expression. Not anger, calculation. "New toy?" he asked, reaching across the table and turning my wrist slightly as if inspecting produce. "It's just a watch," I said. He smiled thinly. "You recording me now?" There was laughter around the table. The kind meant to dissolve tension before it forms. "I'm not recording anything," I replied. He nodded, but his jaw tightened. 10 minutes later he stood and said, lightly, "Walk with me." No one stopped him. No one ever had. In the parking lot, the air was sharp with exhaust and sunlight. The restaurant door closed behind us, muting the world. His tone changed immediately. "You think you're clever," he said quietly. "Trying to catch me saying something." "I'm not trying to catch you," I answered. My voice had that steady quality I learned as a teenager. Calm enough not to provoke, controlled enough not to shake. He grabbed my wrist then, harder than necessary, twisting it to examine the watch face. "You think I don't know what these do?" The grip wasn't violent, but it wasn't gentle either. Familiar pressure. Familiar message. "I'm not recording you," I said again. He leaned closer. "After everything we've done for you, you're going to start playing victim again. You remember what happened last time you tried that?" There it was. The subtle rewriting. The suggestion that I had once fabricated something, that I had been dramatic, that consequences had followed because of me. For 20 years, that story had been repeated so often it hardened into fact. I pulled my wrist back slowly. He released it, but not before saying, low enough that it felt private, "No one will believe you anyway." We walked back inside. He resumed his seat. My mother asked if everything was fine. "Fine," he said. Later, when I mentioned the parking lot, he laughed softly. "You're imagining things. I just asked about the watch." My mother nodded. "You're always so sensitive." It would have ended there, the way it always did. My memory against theirs. Their version louder. That night, at home, I took off the watch and placed it on my nightstand. A notification blinked. Audio file saved, unusual activity detected. I frowned. I hadn't activated anything. I tapped the file. The sound was unmistakable. The scrape of shoes on asphalt. His voice stripped of dining room polish. "You think you're clever." The shift in tone. The grip audible in the fabric rustle. The words I had replayed in my head 100 times over the years, only this time not as doubt, but as waveform. "You remember what happened last time you tried that?" Silence on the recording felt heavier than silence in memory. I sat on the edge of my bed and listened again. For a moment I felt dizzy, not from fear, but from relief. The kind that arrives when you realize you're not losing your mind. For 20 years, any disagreement had been reframed as instability. Any boundary I attempted had been labeled ungratefulness. I had begun to measure my own reactions against their corrections. The recording didn't exaggerate. It didn't interpret. It simply existed. The next day my cousin texted in the family group chat, "You okay? Uncle said you made a scene yesterday." I stared at the screen for a long time. Then I attached the file. No commentary, no accusation. Just, this was recorded outside the restaurant. The typing indicator appeared, disappeared, reappeared. My mother called within minutes. "How could you do this?" she demanded. Not denying the voice, not denying the words. "You're embarrassing us?" "I didn't say anything," I replied. He did. Silence. Heavy, real. He sent a message later claiming context was missing, that it sounded worse than it was, that people didn't understand tone. But tone was exactly what the recording captured. A few relatives reached out privately. Some apologized for not seeing it sooner. Some said nothing at all. My mother stopped responding to my messages for weeks. The family story cracked, but it didn't collapse dramatically. There was no public reckoning, no confession. There was just an absence of certainty. And that absence was new. I didn't feel victorious. I felt steadier. For years I'd rehearsed arguments in my head, trying to assemble evidence from memory. Now I didn't need to argue. I didn't need to persuade. I reduced contact after that. Not angrily. Gradually, I began therapy without hiding it. I stopped defending my version of events. When doubt crept in, as it still sometimes does, I replayed the recording once, just enough to remind myself. Truth doesn't always repair what's broken. But it recalibrates you. He once told me no one would believe me anyway. He was wrong. More importantly, I no longer needed to convince myself.